Even this time, despite the Mist Valley forces launching a massive invasion of the surface world, their entire offensive lasted no more than 2 hours before they chose to retreat. Therefore, the Hades Gatekeeper's absence was likely due to this constraint. Yet the very fact that the Mist Valley forces dared to appear signaled that this restriction was gradually being lifted. Perhaps soon, that being clad in black armor, the one who had once threatened Zhang Yi with death, would personally descend upon this world. When that time came, could Zhang Yi, with his current strength, withstand even a single strike from him? Zhang Yi's mind drifted back to their first encounter. The black armor toyed with him, Black Tortoise, and Cardalus like children, manipulating them with reckless abandon. Had the black armor truly intended to kill them then, none of the three would have survived. My strength alone cannot withstand an attack from an entity of that level. The black armor's ability index must be at least 40,000 points. Even now, I clearly recognize I'm no match for him. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. It's time to seek help from others. Coincidentally, this very moment saw attacks launched against all major regions of Huashu Kingdom. He resolved to unite every available force, convening a joint strategy session to counter the Mist Valley invasion. Zhang Yi directly absorbed the silver armor's origin. It wouldn't take long before his strength leaped to a new level. As for the origins of the two black and white commanders, he collected them as well, but he didn't use them himself. The origin of a white chariot-level mutant offered him some enhancement, but it wasn't significant. So he directly distributed both origins to Flower and Liang Yu. Both the human and the cat were overjoyed. Epsilon-level origin was not something easily obtained. Don't slack off. Perhaps soon, we'll face a new wave of attacks. Zhang Yi said to them. Everyone was jolted awake by Zhang Yi's words, nodding in unison, vowing to strengthen vigilance across the entire Tianhai city. Just then, Zhu Zheng's communication came through. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. This old fellow calling now could only mean some meaningless pleasantries. Zhang Yi answered the call, and Zhu Zheng's dazzlingly cheerful face instantly appeared before him. Zhang Yi. Ha ha ha. This time, you've truly made the Jiangnan region shine. Well done. This time, we annihilated the invading alien forces. From now on, the entire world will have to look at us differently. At this point, the smile on Zhu Zheng's face suddenly faded considerably. However, other regions won't fare so well. Zhu Zheng was naturally delighted by the Jiangnan region's great victory. Yet among the 6 regions of Huashu Kingdom, prosperity was shared, and so was adversity. Though they competed daily, it was the friendly rivalry between brother regions, healthy competition. But when the lips perish, the teeth feel the chill. The heavy losses suffered by other regions were hardly good news for the Jiangnan region. This thought naturally weighed heavily on Zhu Zheng's mind. Zhang Yi remained silent for several seconds before stating flatly, I warned them long ago that danger could strike at any moment. They chose to disregard my words. Now that they've suffered such losses, they have no one to blame but themselves. After eliminating Wan Ping, Zhang Yi had convened discussions with the leaders of all major regions to prepare for a potential invasion by an unknown civilization. But back then, they dismissed it as Zhang Yi's personal concern and paid little heed. Thus, they were attacked one by one, suffering immense losses. Only Zhang Yi, relying on his thorough advance preparations, achieved a near-perfect victory. Had other regions prepared earlier, the outcome would certainly not be this. Zhu Zheng sighed deeply, the world is truly unpredictable. After all, in the 3 years since the apocalypse, this marked the first time a surface nation faced a large-scale assault from an underground civilization. No one could foresee the future, could they? By the way, you must have suffered considerable losses in this battle. Whatever supplies you need, just ask. Blizzard City's warehouses will open their doors to you without reservation. This time, Zhu Zheng was remarkably magnanimous. The cautionary tale of other regions was laid bare before them. The Mist Valley forces had invaded with the explicit intent of annihilating them. Therefore, should Zhang Yi encounter any trouble, Blizzard City would be utterly destroyed without fail. Zhang Yi responded without mincing words, "I'll come collect the supplies." "And what about manpower? Blizzard City now has 500,000 Yan Yunwei who can assist." After a long period of recuperation and growth, Blizzard City had gradually expanded, and the numbers of Yan Yunwei had increased. Zhang Yi shook his head. "I won't need personnel. Ordinary people or low-tier mutant are useless in a war of this level. Even if sent, they would only serve as laborers for Zhang Yi." But Zhang Yi didn't trust outsiders. If Wan Ping could infiltrate as a spy back then, who could guarantee there weren't others within Blizzard City? Zhang Yi now believed it wasn't just Tianhai City that had a Wan Ping. Spies dispatched by the Wuluan Empire likely existed throughout all 6 major regions of Huaxu Kingdom. Otherwise, how could they strike directly at the heart of each region? And fight with such orderly precision, even their retreats executed without the slightest hesitation? Even disregarding the alien threat, Zhang Yi couldn't fully trust Zhu Zheng. The old fox had undoubtedly sent people to scout Tianhai City. The probability was 100%. Zhu Zheng nodded. "In that case, I'll follow your lead." Zhang Yi ended the communication with Zhu Zheng. After a moment's thought, he decided against making the trip himself. Instead, he instructed Yang Xinxin, "Prepare a list for Blizzard City. Have them deliver whatever materials we need directly." Yang Xinxin nodded. "Yes, brother. I'll arrange it immediately." "So, should we have them send all of their supplies?" Yang Xinxin's tone was utterly calm. Zhou Qi and the others nearly stumbled over themselves at that statement. Bai Li Changqing also looked mortified. "Miss Yang, all the supplies. That's a bit of a joke, isn't it?" Yang Xinxin replied coolly, "As long as Tianhai City exists, they can exist. Those weapons, bullets, and various supplies are what they should be giving us." Of course, the all Yang Xinxin mentioned would inevitably be withheld when delivered to Blizzard City. Still, the quantity of supplies sent over would certainly not be small. Zhang Yi summoned Lu Karen. "Karen, Tianhai Fortress is now our most vital asset. I need you to handle something." Lu Karen stood up straight. At 21, the young girl's figure had developed rapidly over the past 3 years, already showing promising curves. "Yes, brother." Zhang Yi smiled. "It's nothing too complicated. I just want you to detach the entire shelter." Lu Karen blinked her large eyes. "Big brother, you mean we can use dimensional space to pack up the shelter and take it with us any time, right?" Zhang Yi nodded. "Exactly." He took a deep breath. "Even though we won this time, judging by the Mist Valley tribe's offensive momentum, they'll definitely launch further actions. If the Hades gatekeeper joins the fray, our forces alone won't stand a chance against him." At this point, Zhang Yi suddenly broke into a bright smile, giving himself a thumbs up. "But if we need to escape? I'm confident we can pull it off." With strength approaching bishop level, if he fled at full speed, no other mutant he'd encountered so far could stop him, except for the White Dragon, who could interfere with his spatial abilities. Lu Karen nodded. "That part is easy. We just need to use E-metal to detach the entire base from underground." Fatty Su leaned in curiously. "Boss, are we running away? Escape is certainly an option. We must consider the consequences of defeat." "But," Zhang Yi took a deep breath before that, "I want to try." As a black charioteer mutant, his strength ranked among the absolute elite in Huaxu Kingdom. If even he chose to flee, then the entire Huaxu Kingdom would truly be in grave danger. That evening, less than half an hour after the Mist Valley invasion concluded, a special meeting convened. Initiated by the Xinjiang region and involving all 6 major regions, it brought together the leaders and top combat forces of each region. Yang Xinxin and others observed from the sidelines. From the Xinjiang region, only Meng Yuanjuan's figure was visible. He looked around at all present and asked, "Everyone, after this major battle, what is the extent of the damage?" For the first time, Han Shan's face lacked his usual carefree expression. His tone grave, he reported, "The northeast region has suffered heavy losses. Fengtian City is largely destroyed, and many civilians and mighty Tiger Guard soldiers have perished. From the East Sea region, Commander Li Guangxiao spoke in a low voice, "The situation in the East Sea region is even worse. Our naval fleet has been nearly annihilated. Maintaining patrols in the East Sea waters will be difficult in the short term. Many soldiers fell in battle, but civilian casualties were contained. However, we lost one Epsilon-level mutant, the Azure Dragon." The moment these words were spoken, the atmosphere in the room fell silent. Every Epsilon-class mutant is a vital asset to the nation, representing the most crucial strategic resources across all major regions. Not every region possesses 2 Epsilons. Take the Northeast region, for instance. So far, only Hanshanzhua holds the line. One can only imagine the magnitude of the East Sea region's loss. Upon hearing this, Li Changgong felt a slight sense of relief. At least, for now, their losses appeared relatively minor. No civilian casualties in the Northwest region. Only some Wolf Vanguard warriors fell in battle. Furthermore, we dealt the invading enemy a heavy blow, forcing them to retreat in utter defeat. The others silently rolled their eyes at this statement. Retreated in utter defeat? If they truly suffered a crushing defeat, those invaders should never have made it back. Everyone had experienced the same ordeal. Who didn't know the Mist Valley forces had retreated on their own? Why play the big shot now? Luozhua, the current commander of the Southwest region and leader of its theocracy, stated, "The Southwest region wasn't attacked this time, so nothing special occurred." Meng Yuanjun nodded. "The Xinjiang region is the same. Based on our assessment, this incident may be linked to the existence of underground civilizations beneath both our regions. These underground civilizations might share some tacit understanding that they won't invade each other's territories." Hanshanzhua sighed. "So, we're just the unlucky ones, huh?" Meng Yuanjun offered reassurance. "Not exactly. After all, the very existence of these underground civilizations is an unstable factor. If the Mist Valley underground civilization can revolt and threaten our survival, then other underground civilizations could potentially do the same. Therefore, our 2 regions are essentially living on the edge of a volcano." Hearing Meng Yuanjun's words, Hanshanzhua recalled the terrifying civilization beneath the Qinling mountain, and his mind felt slightly more balanced. If that civilization ever clashed with Huashu Kingdom, Xinjiang region would undoubtedly bear the brunt of the conflict. Zhang Yi sat cross-legged on the sofa, his gaze fixed on Luozhua. Their eyes met mid-air. Luozhua turned his head, sending Zhang Yi a look of gratitude. For only they knew that Nash Kingdom, beneath the Southwest region, had been utterly obliterated in that battle. Meng Yuanjun's gaze fell upon Zhang Yi, a radiant smile lighting up his face. "Here, we must especially commend the response of the Jiangnan region." His hand extended toward Zhang Yi and Zhu Zheng. Facing the invasion by the Mist Valley alien forces this time, only the Jiangnan region not only suffered minimal losses but also annihilated the invaders entirely. Hearing this, the others couldn't help but feel a bit sour. Though they were all on the same side, everyone else had suffered, while he alone not only escaped unscathed but reaped the benefits. Others might not voice it, but the taste in their mouths was bitter. But what could they do? Zhang Yi was simply too formidable. He'd single-handedly annihilated the invading force using only the strength of Tianhai City. Frankly, power determined the rules of the game. The weak had to train harder, complaining was useless. Still, Li Changgong crossed his arms and offered his perspective. The underground civilization that attacked, it was from Star Island's Mist Valley, correct? He looked at Zhang Yi, Li Guangxiao, and Black Tortoise. "I recall it was your East Sea region and Jiangnan region that launched the campaign against Star Island. Now that problems have arisen, you should bear primary responsibility. Meanwhile, our Northwest and Northeast regions have suffered undeserved calamity." Li Guangxiao's argument held merit. From start to finish, he'd gained nothing from the Star Island affair, only a beating to show for it, so his resentment was understandable. Zhang Yi wasn't unreasonable either. Smiling, he addressed Li Changgong. "Before this incident, I warned you that Huashu Kingdom might be attacked. You failed to prepare adequately. How can you blame others? Moreover, you claim Star Island's underground civilization targeted us. But if that's the case, why would they attack you when there's no prior grievance between you? If they attacked you, it must mean you did something you shouldn't have. His words were logical and well-founded. Li Changgong's face turned green. He slammed his fist on the table. Chaos, are you being reasonable? My northwest region isn't even coastal, how could we possibly have any connection to them? It's clearly your actions forcing us all to pay the price. Before Zhang Yi could respond, Li Guangxiao spoke up. Changgong, you're too impulsive. Stay calm when facing problems, don't act on impulse. Li Guangxiao's words calmed Li Changgong somewhat. After all, they were distant relatives. Li Guangxiao was Li Changgong's far cousin uncle. But I believe wrongs should be addressed at their source. We shouldn't bear these losses in vain. Li Changgong's eyes locked onto Zhang Yi as he spoke. Had the Jiangnan region suffered identical losses in this conflict, Li Changgong would never have uttered such words. But he was furious. You started this mess, yet when trouble hits, I suffer while you walk away unscathed. Who could stand that? Li Guangxiao took a deep breath and spoke slowly. Arguing over right and wrong is pointless here. Understand this is a clash between two different races. What justification do we need? If it were a conflict between nations, perhaps there might still be some room for reason and consideration. But humans in the underground races beneath the Mist Valley are not of the same kind. Why bother discussing all that nonsense? When humans eat chickens and ducks, they don't need to convict them of crimes first, they simply eat them when they want to. Li Guangxiao meant that conflict between them and the underground races was inevitable sooner or later. This single instance alone, Mist Valley launching an assault against most of Huashu Kingdom, clearly aiming for their annihilation. Were it not for their formidable strength, most other nations on this planet would likely have been wiped off the map by now. At this critical juncture, debating right and wrong seems downright laughable. Zhang Yi, however, remained composed, his hands folded beneath his chin as he spoke with a distant gaze. I admit we entered the Star Island seeking treasure. But even if we hadn't gone, other nations would have ventured there. Contact between the underground civilization and humanity is increasing. Such encounters aren't limited to our borders, they're occurring abroad as well. Conflict is inevitable. Do you truly believe your inland location shields you from danger? Zhang Yi smiled faintly. You'd best abandon such unrealistic notions quickly. Otherwise, you'll face far greater hardship in the future. Li Changgong retorted coldly, I'll remember this. We'll settle accounts sooner or later. As you wish. Zhang Yi said unconcernedly. He knew Li Changgong all too well, a man who valued face above all else, whose threats were sharper than anyone's. But if it came to a fight, Zhang Yi wouldn't fear him in the slightest. Meng Yuanjun continued, the biggest problem now is we don't know if they'll attack again. Or when they'll strike. We cannot assume they'll strike only once. Judging by the scale of their attack, they clearly aim to annihilate our fighting force. Therefore, we must remain perpetually prepared to counter a large-scale assault that could come at any moment. Han Shanzuo's eyes flickered with worry as he spoke. I've heard of hunting thieves for 1,000 days, but never guarding against them for 1,000 days. What good does it do to live in constant fear? We'd be better off mobilizing our forces, charging into Star Island's Mist Valley, and fighting them head-on. Meng Yuanjun shook his head. That approach is highly inadvisable. According to our intelligence, besides attacking Huashu Kingdom, they simultaneously struck the Colombian Navy's ocean fleet stationed at Neon Harbor. As things stand, even mobilizing the full might of Huashu Kingdom, it would be extremely difficult to launch an underground assault and annihilate them. Luozhua asked curiously, what if we deployed the Reaper of Love? That's our ultimate weapon. Zhang Yi answered the question, looking at Luozhua as he spoke. The power of the Reaper of Love is indeed formidable, but it can only achieve truly effective lethality in open areas. Never mind that the underground civilization of Star Island Mist Valley survives at least 10,000 meters below ground. Even within reinforced concrete fortifications hundreds of meters underground, a standard Reaper of Love would struggle to kill those inside. Luo Zhuo had intended to suggest, what if we used your ability to bring the Reaper of Love underground? Might that work? But the look Zhang Yi gave him made him promptly shut his mouth. When confronting the Prince of Nash, Zhang Yi had risked using a dimensional gate to lure the Reaper of Love underground. In truth, that operation had been extremely perilous. One misstep could have gone horribly wrong. Moreover, Zhang Yi knew full well that beneath the Mist Valley lay an abyss guarded by beings like the Hades Gatekeeper. Wouldn't going there be tantamount to suicide? Before Zhang Yi could speak, Black Tortoise voluntarily brought up the existence of the Hades Gatekeeper. Within the Mist Valley, even more powerful mutants remain unseen. And none of us truly knows how formidable they are. It's unwise to launch an attack recklessly. Li Changgong frowned deeply. This won't do, that won't do. Are we just supposed to sit here and take blows? How much can our Huashu kingdom really withstand? 2 attacks? 3? He was visibly angry. You lot are sitting pretty, unscathed. But our great Northwest? After this battle, we've lost nearly half our military strength. If this keeps up, we're all finished. Zhang Yi didn't respond to his outburst. While he disliked Li Changgong's tone, the man had every right to be furious. There was no need to rub salt in the wound at a time like this. Besides, his purpose in attending this meeting was to unite everyone in solving the problem. He merely turned to Meng Yuanjun and stated, Commander Meng, at this point, we have no better options. I can only defend my own territory. However, if my assistance is required and there is a sound battle plan, I will actively cooperate. Li Guangxiao glanced at Zhang Yi and gave a light snort. Of course. Because if there's another attack, the primary target will undoubtedly be your Jiangnan region. No, it will be Tianhai City, where you are stationed. Everyone strongly agreed with Li Guangxiao's assessment. After all, Zhang Yi had achieved a decisive victory this time, annihilating the entire invading Mist Valley force. Should the enemy counterattack, Tianhai City would undoubtedly be their primary target, subjected to an all-out assault. Zhang Yi shrugged his hands. I don't deny that. But don't forget, if I choose to leave, I can depart any time. The land of Tianhai City isn't worth much. Li Changgong's expression darkened further. They all had families and livelihoods here, they couldn't abandon their homeland. But for Zhang Yi? The world was his oyster, where couldn't he go? A Black Chariot-level space ability mutant could effortlessly gather an entire city's resources, even pack up his own house, then retreat to a safe haven. Who could possibly track him down? Meng Yuanjun smiled at Zhang Yi. If chaos is willing to intervene, we aren't entirely without options to counter any impending crisis. All eyes turned to Meng Yuanjun. They wanted to hear the insights of this newly appointed commander of the Xinjiang region. Meng Yuanjun stepped aside, revealing a projection of a middle-aged man in the uniform of a Dragon Guardian's major. Allow me to introduce Daisheng, the heavenly jet star among Xinjiang's 36 heavenly spirits. He is a space ability user, and his ability is spatial transmission. Meng Yuanjun gestured for Daisheng to step forward and introduce himself. Daisheng walked over with his back straight, performing a solemn military salute. Greetings, leaders of the regions. My ability is called Star Cluster. I can leave coordinates at any spatial node, then activate my power to transport objects to that node. By establishing corresponding spatial nodes across all regions, I can achieve seamless personnel transport between the 6 major regions. Daisheng's abilities are indeed highly effective. When utilized properly, they can consolidate the combat strength of all 6 major regions. This would greatly facilitate our operations against the enemy. Moreover, with mutual support between regions, we need not worry about our own headquarters being attacked. Meng Yuanjun smiled as he said, military strength is unevenly distributed among the 6 major regions. Furthermore, this time, our 3 regions suffered minimal losses. Therefore, in the next conflict, we shall bear the primary burden of confronting the enemy. Even if the other 3 regions come under attack, we can provide swift reinforcement. Meng Yuanjun spoke, his gaze shifting to Zhang Yi. Especially you, Chaos. Your combat prowess now ranks among the very best in Huashu Kingdom. You single-handedly annihilated 3 Epsilons from Mist Valley. Therefore, in the upcoming operations, I expect you to lead the main force. Li Changgong retorted, this situation was caused by you. Naturally, you bear primary responsibility. Zhang Yi ignored him, replying indifferently, in terms of combat strength, Xinjing region currently stands unmatched in Huashu Kingdom. Ho Tu and the Xidagarba King have never intervened. This is a matter of national importance, can you really keep hiding? And if we're talking about responsibility, I only went to Star Island once. Since then, the East Sea region has been facing off against the Columbus Ocean Fleet around Star Island. Responsibility? Zhang Yi shot Li Changgong a cold glance. My responsibility seems minimal. Go Chen, I see your Northwest region has suffered heavy losses. I don't wish to criticize you. But do you truly believe I'm simply letting you off? Don't provoke me. I killed the Silver Armor Mutant in Mist Valley. Guess if I can kill you. Zhang Yi's words instantly plunged the entire meeting into a heavy, oppressive silence. He hadn't intended to engage Li Changgong, but the man kept pushing his luck. Zhang Yi wasn't about to indulge him. You! How dare you say such things in front of all these high-ranking regional officials? You're completely lawless. Li Changgong spat angrily. He'd been ready to explode, but upon reflection, he knew he couldn't actually win if he clashed with Zhang Yi. Forget winning. With Zhang Yi's power, he could storm Chang'an City and take his head without breaking a sweat. Enough, enough. With a formidable enemy at our doorstep, the 6 major regions should unite our strength to confront this crisis together. Internal strife is the last thing we need. Meng Yuanjun turned to Li Changgong, Go Chen, should future crises arise, your Northwest region may still need Chaos's assistance. Show some restraint. Li Changgong pondered this. It was indeed true, forcing him to swallow his grievances. Meng Yuanjun then smiled at Zhang Yi. Chaos, the Northwest region has suffered heavy casualties, and Go Chen is understandably unsettled. I hope you can be understanding and not hold it against him. Zhang Yi replied calmly, I am naturally reasonable. He rubbed the back of his hand and spoke slowly, his tone deep and resonant. However, there remains one most pressing issue. This matter must be decided by the Xinjing region. A flicker of surprise passed through Meng Yuanjun's pupil. Oh? I'd like to hear more. Zhang Yi slowly uttered a name, Hades Gatekeeper. Black Tortoise's expression immediately darkened. Others might have merely heard of this entity, but only Zhang Yi and Black Tortoise had truly faced that demon godlike being. 2 years ago, with a casual strike, he had forced Zhang Yi, Black Tortoise, and Cardalus to fight for their lives with every ounce of strength. To this day, the memory of his power filled both Zhang Yi and Black Tortoise with profound dread. Clearly, that being's strength far surpassed those few silver armor warriors. If the Hades Gatekeeper were to intervene then, who could possibly stand against him? Zhang Yi fixed his gaze on Meng Yuanjun. If the Hades Gatekeeper intervenes, I stand no chance. At that point, we must call upon Huashu Kingdom's foundational pillars, Ho Tu, and Xidagarba King. After the apocalypse, Huashu Kingdom's earliest Epsilon-tier mutant was also a natural-born ability user. For a considerable period, Ho Tu was hailed as Huashu Kingdom's strongest mutant. Even though she rarely engaged in combat, her mere presence instilled profound awe among mutants across other regions. Yet over time, her subsequent interventions became merely symbolic gestures, never showcasing her full combat prowess. Thus, Zhang Yi and others were deeply curious, just how powerful was Ho Tu now? Facing a crisis that threatened the Huashu Kingdom, she could no longer remain hidden behind the scenes. Zhang Yi's words drew everyone's gaze toward Meng Yuanjun, clearly expecting Ho Tu to step forward as the main force to confront the enemy. Meng Yuanjun smiled faintly. Naturally. When the time comes, no one will be able to remain uninvolved. Furthermore, I have already requested aid from major global powers in the name of Huashu Kingdom. In the battle ahead, we must give our absolute all and achieve victory in one decisive strike. Only by intimidating the forces beneath the Mist Valley can we ensure our own peace. Li Changdong frowned. Seeking aid from those foreigners? Ha! They'd love to see us fail. Why would they help? Meng Yuanjun replied, in the past, they might not have intervened. But now, the situation is different. We face a common enemy of humanity. Should Huashu Kingdom falter, they too will struggle to survive. Zhang Yi spoke calmly, in any case, I leave these arrangements to you. I will do my utmost to contribute my own combat strength once the war begins. Death served as the dividing line. The moment he encountered an enemy he couldn't defeat, or faced mortal peril, Zhang Yi would flee without hesitation. At worst, he would unleash the Reaper of Love, letting others perish alongside the Hades gatekeeper. Zhang Yi was certain the Reaper of Love was an integral part of the plan. Meng Yuanjun nodded. As for the complete battle plan, we'll work tirelessly in the coming days, utilizing every resource at our disposal to formulate the optimal strategy. Zhang Yi turned his head and murmured to Yang Xinxin, you'll oversee this matter. It wasn't that he didn't trust Meng Yuanjun and the others. It was simply that in operations like this, if you followed up insufficiently, you risked being placed in the sacrificial role. This was something Zhang Yi absolutely had to avoid. Yang Xinxin nodded. The entire operation plan must undergo our review and be confirmed error-free before execution. For the next full day, the video conference continued uninterrupted. Since no one knew when the war might erupt again, preparations had to be made swiftly. Meanwhile, the Xinjiang region's distress call had been sent to every faction capable of providing support. The distress signal from Xinjiang was broadcast worldwide, clearly indicating the critical severity of the situation. After all, Huashu Kingdom stands as one of the most powerful realms on the entire planet today. If even Huashu Kingdom struggles to withstand Mist Valley's assault, then sooner or later, when other nations face similar crises, their fate will be far worse. Though a plea for aid, Huashu Kingdom's stance was perfectly measured. Yet the underlying message was equally clear, this was a time for all major human powers to support one another. No one could guarantee they wouldn't face trouble next. When that time came, Huashu Kingdom would likewise extend a helping hand. Upon receiving Huashu Kingdom's distress signal, the first to respond was their longtime rival, Colombia. Colombia immediately declared its willingness to deploy an elite force to assist the Huashu Kingdom in its defense. This was easily understandable. After all, they too had suffered heavy losses in this war. Moreover, the ocean fleet had been largely destroyed by now. If the forces beneath the Mist Valley were allowed to attack the Huashu Kingdom, the entire Southeast Asian maritime region would be cut off from this day forward. They would be forced to relinquish their hegemony over the oceans. Regardless of the perspective, they possessed ample justification to join this war against the alien invaders. Meanwhile, Franklin, the capital of Colombia, had dispatched personnel to assist in defending the Neon naval base. From this proximity, they could observe Huashu Kingdom engage the true strength of the Mist Valley forces, using this intelligence to assess Colombia's future defense requirements. Fremons, capital of Karen. Within this nation that revered strength, stood the Pantheon, a sanctuary forged by the nation's strongest mutants. When Huashu Kingdom's distress signal reached them, these supremely revered beings gathered here to decide whether to offer aid. Upon the throne of ice, sharp spines radiated bone-chilling cold. The entire hall pulsed with Arctic chill, its floor encrusted with thick frost from the extreme frigidity. Seated upon the throne was a woman clad in black battle armor, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, her face sharp and angular like that of a sword. Morana, the winter goddess, the mightiest and strongest being of Fremons. Below, upon 2 rows of elevated seats, sat one powerful figure after another, those standing at the pinnacle of Fremon's mutant realm. Svenevit, the god of war, sporting a thick beard and a shaved head adorned with black shamanic tattoos, stared coldly at the level 13 civilian official in the center of the Pantheon. Zhu Halai, who had come to report, stood ramrod straight, enunciating each word, the Huashu Kingdom has requested our aid, asking us to dispatch fighters to assist them in repelling an invasion by underground civilizations from the Star Island Mist Valley. Whether we provide support or not, I leave to your judgment. Mirana's gray-blue eyes fixed coldly on Zhu Halai, her arms crossed before her, yet she remained silent. Below, Svenevit spoke first, a large-scale invasion by the underground civilization? This is unprecedented. Even the mighty Huashu Kingdom must seek outside aid. Looks like they're in deep trouble. On the other side, Vulcan, spheric, legs crossed, sporting long curly hair and a black mustache, stated, "Intelligence indicates they repelled the initial assault. However, the cost was devastatingly high." He glanced at the others and remarked indifferently, "I don't recommend our people getting involved. This war is extremely dangerous. Word is the Huashu Kingdom has already lost an Epsilon-level mutant in combat. Besides, our own situation isn't exactly rosy right now. It's not convenient for us to meddle in someone else's affairs." On the other side, a youth clad in black leather, his white hair standing up dramatically, shrugged his shoulders and countered, "But if Huashu Kingdom, located south of us, has already been invaded by the underground civilization, how can we guarantee it won't be our turn next? We're already overwhelmed dealing with the Arctic Sea troubles. If we face invasion from the south too, we won't have enough forces to go around." The black-clad youth speaking was Chernobog, the god of darkness, of the Pantheon. Sverad countered, "The Huashu Kingdom is immensely powerful. Even without our aid, they won't fall easily. Besides," a shadow flickered in his eyes, "absolute peace is inherently difficult to maintain between two neighboring great powers. If their strength is weakened, it might not be entirely bad for us." He lifted his head, looking at Morana, who had remained silent. In Fremons, the most powerful deity was not the father of gods or mother of gods who created all things, but the goddess of winter, who commanded the bitter cold and could destroy everything with blizzards. If Su Chunlei ever saw Morana, he would finally understand what Zhang Yi meant when he said ice elemental mutants were the most uniquely favored children of this ice age. Morana was the one who could settle matters with a single blow. She glanced at Vulcan but turned her gaze toward another lofty throne in the center of the hall. There, a man had remained silent throughout. He was a man with short, brownish-yellow hair and a neatly trimmed beard, appearing as robust as a polar bear. His features were unremarkable, even somewhat dull. Despite the heated debate raging in the Hall of Gods over aiding Huashu Kingdom, he remained seated silently on his high throne, not uttering a single word. Morana asked softly, "Alexei, what do you think?" Hearing Morana's question, the man slowly lifted his head. Alexei Ivanov, codename Thunder God Purin. All eyes turned to Alexei. This formidable, upright figure had always enjoyed an excellent reputation within the Pantheon. Both his prowess and his character commanded profound respect. Yet Alexei spoke only in a measured tone, his words deliberate. "I believe that compared to the realms of humanity, the mysterious and terrifying civilizations that emerged after the apocalypse are our greatest enemy. Perhaps one day, we too will need aid from the Huashu Kingdom." He paused for 2 seconds before continuing, "Or perhaps that day is not so far off." Morana's face remained impassive, yet the gray-blue depths of her eyes grew noticeably more intense. Vulcan persisted, "But right now, we have our own problems to solve. Those strange phenomena appearing in the Far East still haven't been properly investigated." These words, however, made Morana's gaze grow resolute. "Alexei, your journey to Huashu Kingdom represents our stance." The Pantheon mutants below immediately fell silent. Morana's words were her decree, no one could challenge it. All who had dared to question her authority, however slightly, had already learned their lesson through brutal means. Fremons dispatched only Thor, and even then, aside from a few of his trusted confidants, he did not allow him to bring additional mutants. However, this was sufficient to convey Fremon's stance. After all, Thor was already among Fremon's most elite mutant warriors. They couldn't commit significant forces to support Huashu Kingdom. In the post-apocalypse, every nation faced its own pressing concerns. They had to hold their own strongholds. Western Euro, Vatican. This was the headquarters of the Holy See. Though its grounds covered only the area of a small town, it stood as the religious center with the most followers worldwide. After the apocalypse, the power of faith grew increasingly vital. Even those who had once disbelieved in deities began seeking solace through worship. This led to the rapid rise of the Holy See, transforming it into a formidable force commanding a vast army of mutants. Sunlight streamed through the ceiling of St. Peter's Basilica. At the sacred center of the cathedral, Pope Richard Alexander X stood with hands clasped before a massive cross, deep in prayer. On one side wall hung the Messiah's Sermon, a masterpiece painted by the renowned 6th-century artist Ken Obuchi. Thin rays of light filtered through the stained glass windows, casting a mysterious play of light and shadow upon the floor. This halo of light enveloped Alexander X, making him appear profoundly devout and sacred, adding an air of mystery to this divine representative in the hearts of his faithful. Squeak, the cathedral doors creaked open slowly as a bishop clad in crimson robes entered. His tall figure cast a long silhouette across the church floor as he walked with steady, determined steps. He approached the Pope from behind, stopping at a respectful distance. He waited until the Pope finished his prayer, then slowly opened his eyes. Without turning, he knew who had arrived. "Olive, what brings you here?" Cardinal Arnold Olive, a silver cross hanging from his chest and sacred scriptures in hand, bowed respectfully and said, "Your Holiness, we have received a plea for aid from a distant eastern kingdom." The wrinkled face of Alexander X slowly opened its eyes, a deep gleam flashing within. "The kingdom of Huashu?" "Yes, Your Holiness." A faint smile touched the corners of Alexander X's lips. He had been informed immediately of the attack by the underground civilization on the Huashu kingdom. As the Pope of the Holy See, commanding billions of followers worldwide, he was, in a sense, the most influential figure on the planet. Even this tiny Vatican, with its territory spanning less than 1 square kilometer, commanded the willing service of countless internationally renowned figures across the globe. There was nothing he desired to know that he could not uncover. Alexander X declared, "That is a nation without faith. Its people never revered the divine. They only sought the gods' aid when their own needs demanded it." "Just like now?" Olive inquired. "Indeed, Your Majesty. However, this time they face an attack from a remarkably powerful underground civilization. Moreover, the Huashu kingdom is a crucial stabilizing force in the current world order." Pope Alexander's gaze grew cold. "You suggest deploying our sacred Knights Templar to aid them?" Olive bowed and replied, "Your Holiness, you have said it is a land without faith. Yet this presents a golden opportunity to spread the radiance of the Holy See across that barren soil, where it may take root and flourish." Alexander X chuckled softly, narrowing his eyes as he gazed upward at the colossal crucifix of the Messiah. "We have attempted such endeavors many times before. Yet only through suffering do humans comprehend the importance of revering the divine." He spread his arms wide, his white, ornate papal vestments unfurling like the wings of a soaring eagle. "Let them endure greater suffering. Then, in the name of the Lord, we shall come to their rescue." Upon hearing this, Olive could only nod. "Your command is my command, Your Majesty." Brahma. As a neighboring nation to the Huashu kingdom and one of the world's 10 great powers, they naturally received the Huashu kingdom's plea for aid. Consequently, Brahma's high-ranking officials gathered to convene the God tribute meeting. Brahma had always been a theocratic state. After the apocalypse, those fortunate enough to become mutants were hailed as apostles favored by the Trimurti. Among them, the 8 most outstanding individuals, those who had endured the Trimurti's trials and emerged victorious, were known as the 8 tribes' heavenly dragon. The God tribute meeting was held at Brahma's Bahuvala temple. Within the sanctuary, following tradition, they first performed a ritual offering to the Trimurti. Then, the leader of the celestial beings, also known as Emperor Indra, the heavenly emperor from Brahma mythology, directly stated his position to the others. "We shall not intervene in the current situation facing Huashu kingdom. Let us first observe how events unfold. First, we must assess the strength of the underground civilization on Star Island. Second, we shall determine our next course of action based on the battle's outcome. Our objective is to ensure the national strength of the Huashu Kingdom is weakened in this conflict. Yet the Star Island's mysterious civilization must not threaten the Brahma alliance. Brahma and Huashu Kingdom share a border, their relationship always tinged with subtle rivalry. This time, Xinjing never truly expected their assistance. The request for aid was merely a symbolic gesture. Thus, when Emperor Indra expressed his stance, satisfied smiles spread across the faces of those below, nodding in unison. They deemed this the optimal choice for the present moment. Amidst the crowd, Gao Changkong wore a peculiar expression. Thoughts of his homeland stirred complex emotions within him. Yet now, returning to that homeland was beyond his reach. At that moment, the nearby Kanara noticed Gao Changkong's troubled expression and deliberately taunted him. "Garuda, you wouldn't happen to be missing your homeland, would you?" The remark drew all eyes to Gao Changkong, their gazes filled with scrutiny. Because of Gao Changkong's power, they had granted him a false Kshatriya identity. Yet every person seated here was among the elite of Brahmin society. They were well aware of Gao Changkong's true origins. Therefore, toward this mutant who had claimed the identity of one of the 8 tribes and hailed from the Huashu Kingdom, they habitually maintained a degree of wariness, even hostility. Gao Changkong glanced at the crowd, even Emperor Indra himself watching him with a hint of amusement in his eyes. He gave a light snort and said indifferently, "My parents and loved ones have perished on that land. I have nothing left to cherish in Huashu Kingdom. Now, I am the Garuda of Brahma." Within the temple, a strikingly handsome man, bare-chested and crowned with gold, smiled as he approached Gao Changkong. "Garuda, remember this, it was Brahma who saved you in your darkest hour." His large hand rested on Gao Changkong's shoulder, his deep eyes locked onto Gao Changkong's. "Don't do anything foolish. Otherwise, the Trimurti will never forgive you." "Neither will I." Gao Changkong felt an immense weight of pressure. Though he was now a mutant approaching the level of the Black Chariot, ranking among the top within the entire 8 tribes' heavenly dragon, when faced with this true celestial prodigy before him, the bearer of the Brahman's pinnacle bloodline, the foremost power of the Brahma alliance, he still felt an enormous gulf between them. Gao Changkong pressed his palms together, bowing in a standard Brahmin posture. "I shall never forget your guidance." As he lowered his head, an unseen corner of his mouth curled into a sneer. Sharp whistling winds howled across the snowy plains, piercing through the frozen forest. Even the vast coniferous trees struggled to survive in such frigid temperatures, frozen solid into rows of silver ice sculptures. Deep within the woods, however, lay a serene and tranquil area where an ancient Gothic castle stood tall. On the 3rd floor of the castle, within an ancient library, red bookshelves bore the patina of time, laden with thick volumes, old editions now exceedingly rare outside these walls. In this digital age, most had long bid farewell to reading physical books. This library, however, appeared at least a century old. Even parchment scrolls and crudely bound thread-sewn volumes still adorned the shelves. An elderly man with a head of silver hair approached the shelves alone. After a moment's search in the section labeled Economics, he retrieved Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations. He then strolled leisurely to a nearby mahogany desk, opened the pages, and began reading. Yet despite being a classic Euro-style building and such an old study, the almost obligatory sacred scriptures were surprisingly absent from any prominent display. The old man was dressed with refined taste, his English-woven flannel suit fitting his frame perfectly, giving him an understated yet sophisticated air. He hadn't undergone eye surgery to correct his presbyopia. Instead, he reached into his breast pocket, pulled out a pair of well-worn reading glasses, and perched them on his ears. Slowly, he began to leaf through the great work of economics. The old man read for a long time, utterly oblivious to the howling cold wind outside. When the wind pounded against the window, the irregular clattering actually brought him a certain pleasure. Vague memories surfaced of his youth, those years studying business administration at MIT. Knock knock knock. A steady, unhurried knock sounded at the old wooden door. The old man slowly turned his head toward the door and said, "Come in." Screech, the thick, nearly black doors creaked open, revealing a middle-aged man in an expensive suit, his features refined and scholarly. A Burberry silk handkerchief was tucked into his breast pocket. Upon entering, he first carefully wiped the door handle with the handkerchief, removing any trace of his touch. It looked like a scene straight out of a movie about assassins, but this gentleman's actions were simply to prevent his sweat from corroding the original 1930s door handle. The middle-aged man approached the elderly gentleman, stopping a short distance away. He bowed respectfully and said, "Chairman, we have received a request for assistance from the Huashu Kingdom." The unassuming old man seated at the table, the kind one might find in any university library worldwide, slowly removed his reading glasses. With a palm creased by age, he gently closed his book and lifted his gaze. "Huashu Kingdom?" he asked for confirmation. "Yes." The middle-aged man bowed his head. "Our worst fears have materialized prematurely. The mysterious underground civilization beneath Star Island, having endured repeated incursions from neighboring nations, has launched a preemptive attack against human territories. All 4 major regions of Huashu Kingdom, along with the Columbia fleet stationed at Neon Port, have been assaulted." The old man leaned back in his chair and slowly nodded. "We knew this day would come sooner or later." The middle-aged man asked, "Chairman, should we deploy our forces to help them weather this crisis?" The old man folded his hands on his knees, his gaze lowered in deep thought for a long moment before he spoke slowly. "The very purpose of the pupil is to oppose heaven's mandate. It is precisely for this reason that we were formed centuries ago, uniting countless like-minded individuals across the world. And I, who have had the honor of serving as chairman, have always carried a sense of guilt, fearing I might fail to shoulder this responsibility. This time marks the first large-scale collision between the human realm and the underground civilization. It heralds the dawn of a new era, and such situations may become increasingly common. No one can foresee how perilous this war will become." He spoke at length before sinking back into contemplation. The middle-aged man, M. Bratt, a level 32 member of the pupil organization known as the King's Servant, second only to the current chairman Charlie Louis Montesquieu, spoke in a gentle tone, "Your concerns are justified. Moreover, that chaos entity in Huashu Kingdom we recently identified holds significant conflict with one of the 4 horsemen." Montesquieu pondered for a long while, Bratt waiting patiently by his side. After roughly 2 minutes, the air grew thick with silence. Montesquieu finally spoke, "Within our plans, Huashu Kingdom is an indispensable force. Whether it's that young girl known as Ho-Tu, or the newly observed chaos, either could potentially become one of the 4 horsemen of the dawn." "So you mean to mobilize members of Pupil, to support them?" Bratt inquired. Montesquieu shook his head. "We have no clarity on the current situation. Moreover, our greatest enemy isn't human nations, nor even those underground civilizations, it's the dogs who worship the gods." After a moment's contemplation, he spoke slowly, "Though we cannot send personnel, we should at least express our sincerity." Bratt inquired, "You mean?" Montesquieu waved his hand dismissively. "Come to think of it, we haven't dealt with that upstart from Huashu Kingdom yet. This time, let's send him a gift of considerable value." Bratt immediately understood Montesquieu's meaning. Gifts that could be useful to a Black Chariot-level mutant were few and far between in this world. Tianhai City. Zhang Yi assigned Yang Xinxin to coordinate battle plans with representatives from the 6 major regions, while he ascended to the circular dome atop Tianhai Fortress, surveying the landscape in every direction. From such heights, where one could see everything around, there was always a sense of commanding the entire situation. Yet the boundless ocean stretching into the distant horizon invariably stirred a sense of dread. This time, Zhang Yi had repelled the Mist Valley forces' assault flawlessly. But what about the next time? The existence of the Hades gatekeeper hung over him like a sword poised to fall at any moment. He furrowed his brow. From this vantage point, he could faintly make out construction crews at work in the distance. Li Changqing led the members of the Volt Shadow Troop in rigorous training along the banks of the Heron River. All the wars raging around them had little immediate impact, so daily training must continue. But if the Hades gatekeeper appeared here, seeking him out as the Sky Dragon King had foretold, then everything in Tianhai City, the peaceful realm Zhang Yi had painstakingly built over 3 years, would crumble completely. Hades. Gatekeeper. Zhang Yi murmured the name softly, the Sky Dragon King's warning still ringing in his ears. He had strived relentlessly to grow stronger, surpassing everyone he knew. Yet compared to that overwhelmingly powerful black-armored mutant from before, he still fell far short. It felt like an insurmountable chasm stretched between them. Zhang Yi had contemplated countless scenarios for battling that black-armored mutant, yet every outcome inevitably ended in his defeat. All I can do now is do my utmost and leave the rest to fate. If it truly proves impossible, I'll have to abandon everything here. Zhang Yi spoke these words in the gentlest tone he could muster. At last, he was on the verge of forging his ideal realm. Yet by then, the 80,000 people of Tianhai City might all perish. Muyan's shadow space lacked sufficient space, accommodating only a few thousand at most. When the time came, he would lead a core group to escape, that was the absolute limit. Just as Zhang Yi was consumed by turmoil, Tianhai City's alert system suddenly buzzed with a notification. Warplanes entering Tianhai City airspace. The party has pre-registered with the Jiangnan region, identified as originating from the island nation of Beachland in Western Euro. Zhang Yi looked utterly astonished. Beachland? What the hell was that place? He'd never even heard of it, and he didn't recall any friends studying abroad. Likely just some obscure little country. Why would anyone come from there? Zhang Yi ordered, identify them. What is their purpose here? Within moments, Tianhai City's air defense intelligence system relayed the inquiries. Less than 10 seconds later, Zhang Yi received their response. I am from the Pupil Organization. My name is Mildred Bratt. I represent Pupil in delivering an important gift to Lord Chaos. Zhang Yi had never heard of any Pupil Organization, nor did he recognize Mildred Bratt. So the other party's words only deepened his confusion. But thankfully, he understood the last part. They were here to deliver a gift. Zhang Yi immediately designated a landing point for the fighter jet and, without hesitation, activated the Tianhai City cannon to lock onto its coordinates. Should the other party show any sign of hostility, Zhang Yi would destroy that fighter jet without a second thought. Rumble. The world's most advanced armed jet, the White Eagle 1, touched down on Tianhai City's airport. Zhang Yi, accompanied by Flower, arrived through spatial travel. He didn't rush to approach but maintained a safe distance to observe the aircraft. I don't know anyone from the Pupil Organization. Explain clearly, why have you come to find me, and why are you bringing me a gift? Zhang Yi conversed with them from several kilometers away. Though his abilities meant danger was unlikely. But if someone with special abilities was aboard that jet, they could easily ambush him. So what if they had Epsilon? Or the Black Chariot? If they were prepared and he wasn't, even these formidable combatants could be killed. In these precarious times, Zhang Yi dared not let his guard down. Mildred Bratt stepped out of the jet. Hearing Zhang Yi's voice in his ear, he immediately whipped his head around to scan the surroundings. Not a soul in sight, not even a bird feather. He couldn't help but chuckle. According to their intelligence, the Chaos Mutant was exceptionally peculiar, possessing world-class power yet acting with extreme caution. Bratt had thought he understood Chaos's wariness, but witnessing such vigilance directed at an ordinary human like himself was truly eye-opening. Zhang Yi had also scrutinized Bratt since his descent. Bratt raised his hands, smiling as he said, "It's perfectly normal that you haven't heard of the Pupil Organization. But I'm sure the high-ranking officials of Huashu Kingdom around you are aware of our existence. After all, we've had quite a bit of dealings with each other. Rest assured, we come here with no ill intent whatsoever. We're here to bring you a gift. I can guarantee you'll love this gift." Zhang Yi pondered. Among his associates, few had access to the higher-ups. So he contacted Deng Shintong directly. "Hey, Zhang Yi, what do you need?" Deng Shintong asked bluntly, his tone serious, expecting Zhang Yi to request backup for Tianhai City. Zhang Yi rolled his eyes. Tell me, have you heard of the Pupil Organization? Pupil? Of course I've heard of them. What's this? Did someone from them approach you? Someone suddenly showed up claiming to deliver a gift for me. That's hardly surprising. Given your current level of power, it was only a matter of time before you crossed paths with them. Deng Shintong explained the Pupil Organization to Zhang Yi. It's an ancient and mysterious group. Their original name was Freemasons. The purpose of its founding remains unclear, perhaps too much time has passed, and many of the founding principles have been forgotten. All I know is that today, they're the world's most enigmatic and powerful membership organization. Those who gain entry are invariably elites in their respective fields. Even some heads of state are among them. Zhang Yi nodded, grasping the gist. A membership-based institution, such organizations are typically formed for mutual support and collective gain. Nothing unusual there. Deng Shintong chuckled. Due to my background, I never joined them, so my knowledge is limited. But I'll warn you, tread carefully around them. Many are shrewd operators, one misstep and they'll have you wrapped around their finger.